And it's not just the body preparation that's specialised. Different teams approach the rest of the process in different ways, but in general they follow a similar path. Not all are lucky enough to have the huge resources of ProDrive available to them, and even some of the big teams with big budgets are operating from nothing more sophisticated than industrial estate factory units as a base. That's true for ProDrive as well, but then there are many such units in the Banbury complex, and the company's other motorsport activities mean that there are greater resources available simply because it's financially more sensible than it would be for a team with only the World Rally Championship to look after. Not that that could ever be considered a small task on its own. But ProDrive is a multi-million-dollar company and is able to undertake substantial engineering tasks, either for itself or for other clients. So, unlike Rally Art, say, whose Mitsubishi engines arrive in boxes, ProDrive takes on the production of the engines for the Impreza itself, and even has a dyno to run them on. And also builds gearboxes as well. Important now that transmission design and its electronic control is becoming increasingly important for the all-round success of the package. And yet, success was proving to be an elusive quantity for the team as the season headed towards its end and the prospect of a whole year without a win. But then came New Zealand and a fine victory for Richard Burns that relaxed the pressure on everyone, including the hard-working test team. By now, in Italy, testing ahead of the San Remo rally, where Mitsubishi's new Charisma was due to make its debut. The championship was still between Mäkinen and McRae, with Sainz as an outsider, but odd wins for Subaru and Peugeot hadn't brought them into contention. All they could hope for now was to end the season with a flourish and pick up as many wins as there were available. So back on with the pressure and back out into the stages went the test team in the quest for more performance the drivers could use in competition.
It's pretty much the same as a rally, except we work probably one event in advance. We test in most of the countries where we have rounds of the World Championship, and I would probably say our hectic time generally would be December, January and February, because invariably we have a new car or a new model or major alteration, so we need to do a lot of miles in that. So in comparison to the rally team, I wouldn't think it's a big difference whatsoever, really.
This championship is so big and so complex, it's sometimes not easy to see the point of all this. What can one driver in Italy achieve that might be of some benefit to another driver who'll be competing in different weather on different roads several hundred kilometres away and in 6 weeks' time?
Yes, it depends definitely what rally you're doing and what you expect from the car to be really stable, really neutral, or you want it to be a bit aggressive and turn in is very sharp and the car is a bit nervous. I mean, it depends. If it's really fast flowing, then you want a very stable car. If it's narrow and twisty, you look for a really responsive car and even maybe nervous.
Interestingly, there's a subtext to this testing which at first isn't obvious, but if you think about it, you'll realise it should have been. And it's all about the way that the test team approach the job in hand.
We make the notes first thing that we get here. We go up and down the road a couple of times, and then we try and drive competitively every time without making mistakes. So it means that I have to keep reading the notes to Markko all the time, even though he gets to know the road very, very well. He still tries to drive on the notes, even though with the experience of the road and knowing it, he could probably drive a little faster, but he has to drive to the notes because the whole idea of testing is not to try and see how fast you can go, but to be consistent.
The thing is that the test has to be consistent, and only then can the team make any deductions about what has happened and whether or not a real benefit has just been gained from a new component or a new tyre. And for the best results, it really is best if you can make those assessments in conditions which do most closely reflect those that you expect to encounter on the actual event itself.
We do test in most places. The reason the last 2 years we've not tested in New Zealand because we were happy with what we'd done any testing elsewhere. This year we tested there, which seemed to have paid off because we won. I think you actually, personally think you need to test in every country where you go. That's the bottom line of it, you know. But sometimes it's not always that possible to get enough time because of the schedule of the year, really.
The test team therefore operates at the same pace as the rally team, and the schedule they work to is pretty much the same, except it runs in advance of the championship calendar. Pick any event, move it back 6 weeks, and that's pretty much where all the test teams will be at that moment in time.
It's more difficult now because this car, you know, the car now is, we've had this car for quite a time, so to measure any improvement is quite difficult. You have to be a lot more accurate in collecting of data, statistics, to prove that it is. If it's something that they find a performance in one area, or a tyre, for instance, yes, you can measure it. Yeah, yes, and it does go straight on onto the performance in the rally for sure.
A large part of the schedule has to be given over to tyre testing. The manufacturers bring new constructions and compounds to a test, and then the drivers pound up and down a stretch of road while the engineers and technicians study the data to see if there's an improvement in performance. And it may only be longevity that they're looking for. A tyre that goes this quick but for 10 kilometres longer might win you a stage or a rally. Or perhaps they do find a wonder compound that's actually worth a second a mile.
Yeah, it can be a big difference in tyres, but like when we're getting closer to the correct tyres, then the difference gets smaller and smaller, and it's harder to notice the difference. But I mean, it's always good news if you have a tyre which is quite a bit better than the old one. That's really good. But it's not so easy to find such big differences.
It makes sense that the big changes are easier to feel and to quantify, and so they're the ones that happen quickly. But this is where it gets so difficult again, because with the smaller improvements to be gained at the outside edge of the envelope, the fractions of a second or a degree, it all becomes so much more subjective. A lot of this is about confidence and feeling. And anyway, if a tyre works for one driver who likes his car like this, there's no guarantee that it'll be as good for another driver who prefers to have his car like that.
The basic setup is very similar for each driver. There's only small changes to sort of roll bars and things. It's not major changes. So they all sort of do the same sort of times. It's not that difficult. You know, they don't drive completely different. They'll go down the road, a test road, if you tested 3 or 4 drivers at very similar times, so it's not that difficult at all, really, from that point of view.
And the job of the team is not what it appears. Getting the car to run the fastest possible lap of the test stage is an oversimplification of the job in hand. And though that's exactly what a circuit racer will do in practice and qualifying, in rallying's equivalent of those sessions, doing the same thing turns out to be counterproductive, if not just too difficult. The test team's task is to find something else from their car, to find something that will make it effective when used on some future date by someone who doesn't know the stages very well but must be quick.
Setup is done mainly in conjunction with the data we get back, engineering input from the engineers and the driver input, really. Because rallying's probably 20 stages of 20 small races, you need to be comfortable. You have to have a sort of overview of it all. It's no good setting a car up. Yes, we could come here and we could set this car up to go up this road faster, for sure. But that wouldn't be any good. It needs to be user friendly, basically, for a rally, because they've only done 2 passes on a recce. So they go up this road, we'll probably do, let's say, 200 kilometres. They know the road completely different to what they'd know special stages on a rally. So you have to have a much bigger overview on the whole picture than just one track.
And so the work behind the scenes goes on, and like any other sport, it's always worth remembering that a lot of the work was done before the event began.